It's Sarah. Welcome back to another video here on my channel. I hope you guys are doing well and I hope you're excited for the new project over here. If this is the first video you're seeing from me, hi, I'm Sarah and I make fantasy content here on this channel. I'm going to be talking about movies, TV shows, books. If there's anything you want to see specifically, drop it down below. But right now I'm currently in the middle of a Vampire Diaries recap on Fridays, and I am going to be starting a Once Upon a Time recap on Mondays. I really considered doing the originals and Vampire Diaries at the same time because the shows kind of cross over for a little bit, at least timeline-wise, but I found that I love the Vampire Diaries, okay? You guys know that. But it's heavy, and as you get through the rest of the seasons, it stays heavy. We're gonna be getting into a lot of like death conversation and stuff in the future, and Once Upon a Time is not all lighthearted, but it's definitely more lighthearted than the Vampire Diaries. So I just needed a little bit of a mix for my weeks so that I can kind of have like a happier show and a heavier show, and we can be doing both at the same time. I hope you guys will be excited about that. I know that down below in the comments people have been asking for Once Upon a Time and just being really excited, and we were gonna have to wait. If I only did one show on Fridays, we were gonna be waiting for Once Upon a Time for like, honestly, like if not a full 6 months, like close to a year. So we're just gonna get it going on Mondays, and I'm gonna try my hand at 2 videos a week. I'm a little nervous, but I'm gonna do my best, and I know you guys have been so supportive so far, so I hope you're excited and I hope you're ready. If you're excited about the series and you don't want to miss any episodes, make sure you subscribe to the channel. I'm still relatively new and we're growing each week, and I absolutely love having you guys here. Comment down below, like the video, all those things help, and I absolutely love talking to you guys. So today we are just gonna go over the show a little bit, and then we're just gonna do episode 1 because episode 1 was over 20 pages of notes. When I realized that, the pilot episodes are crazy. So we're just gonna start the series this week, and then moving forward, I always do like about like 3 to 5, just depending on the week and how my schedule's going. But don't worry, I talk a lot. I don't know if this video will be a full hour long, but normally, minimum, my recaps are an hour long at least. So buckle in, let's get started. So Once Upon a Time came out in 2011. It aired in October, like right before Halloween. And I remember vividly starting this show. My mom and I were like really excited. We'd seen the commercials. I was in like early high school, maybe like sophomore year. And it was just really exciting because I love fairy tales. I'm a writer, I'm a reader. I have a lot, my like childhood fairy tale books are up above. But yeah, I just love stories. I love these characters, and I was so excited to see them all kind of woven together. That's the basic premise of this show. The characters that we love from all these fairy tales have kind of been plucked out of their stories and dropped into a town in Maine. Something's wrong, there's a curse involved, the evil queen is running around doing things, and there is a woman from our world that's gonna join them and hopefully fix everything. We're gonna have to find out if she can do it or not. The show spanned 7 seasons and ran until 2018, and to be 100% honest with you guys, I quit watching because a certain thing happens. I watched until what I considered the end of the show. And then the show kept going. And sometimes that happens and it's okay. It's not that big of a deal. And then there's times when it happens with Once Upon a Time where like it became a different show. And I didn't like that. I was like, we could have done there is a spinoff that I've never seen. That's like Once Upon a Time in Wonderland that talks about the Wonderland characters. So we might watch that as well. I'm doing the Vampire Diaries spinoffs, so I might as well do the Once Upon a Time spinoffs. You guys let me know what you want. So yeah, I'm excited to rewatch the entire show and make it through the whole thing with you guys and kind of go over my thoughts on why I stopped watching, what happened, and kind of get y'all's opinions too, because I think it's one of those shows that the characters are so good and the actors, like the main cast, is so good. So I can see why people would want to hold out to watch those guys regardless of what they're doing, you know? But I just couldn't do that. I was a senior in college and I just didn't care anymore. I was like, I'm done, I'm over it. So I gave up, I jumped ship, but I'm gonna make it through for you guys. We're getting through the whole thing here. Something that I always forget about this show that is so cool is that it was made by the guys who made Lost, which is like one of my favorite TV shows. I love Lost so much. If you guys like recaps, Mike's Mike, who is the reason why I started making these, like pretty much Mike's Mike and Carrie Can Read are like the reasons why I have a YouTube channel now where I'm talking to you guys, because they just gave me the courage to do it. But he just started his Lost recaps and it's so good. He's doing some like fun stuff with it this time. He's done Pretty Little Liars and like a portion of Gossip Girl, and now he started Lost, and I am living for it. I love listening to him talk. I could just watch them all day, and sometimes I do. I just have him playing in the background. So check that video out if you haven't seen it yet. It's really good. But yeah, because those guys made Once Upon a Time, I think that's why we're able to have such a huge cast. And for the most part, the like multiple storylines, the flashbacks, the present time, all of it is woven together really, really well. I think sometimes for me, it feels like the seasons are a little long. They're always like about 22 episodes, which was pretty standard at the time for like this style of show, but it just sometimes feels like there's too many elements going on, or just like a little bit too much is added in. But for the most part, I love it so much, and I'm really, really excited to get into it with you guys. So let's get going with episode 1. We open with a black screen and some text prompts. They read, "Once upon a time, there was an enchanted forest filled with all the classic characters we know, or think we know. One day, they found themselves trapped in a place where all their happy endings were stolen. Our world." This is how it happened. We see a man riding a horse just racing across the countryside. It is gorgeous. The enchanted forest is so pretty, okay? I'm talking snow-covered mountains, beautiful forestscapes, luscious water. He stops in the woods where we see a bunch of dwarves standing around a woman in a glass coffin. He starts to cry, and guys, he's so good at crying. Look at his big blue eyes, okay? He's so good at crying. Begs to say goodbye, so the dwarves take the coffin lid off so that he can properly say goodbye to this woman. This is her, and she is like presumably dead. He gives her a kiss goodbye, and it's true love's kiss. So a big like burst of magic happens from the two of them, and it like spreads out over the whole land all around them, and she wakes up. She says, "You found me," and he says, "Did you doubt I would?" She's like, well, the coffin worried me a little bit. And he's like, "Don't even, I will always find you." And they're excited, the dwarves are happy, everybody's reunited, it's beautiful. We cut right away to their wedding day. And if y'all haven't figured it out yet, this is Snow White and Prince Charming. Look at them, so cute. Right in the middle of the ceremony, the evil queen just burst into the room. Everybody starts screaming. Before she can get too close to them though, Snow White grabs the prince's sword and like wields it in front of her and is just like, "Stop." But the prince stops Snow White and is just like, "Don't make this any bigger deal than it is. She's already lost. She just needs to leave." The queen says, "Oh, no big deal. She'll leave. She just came to give them a quick little gift." Her gift is the day that they're having, the happiness of their wedding day, because she is going to start working the next day to ruin all of their lives. She's going to take every ounce of happiness away from them. She's going to take everything they love. She's just going to completely and totally wreck everything for all of them. And then Charming throws the sword after her and she disappears in a puff of smoke, like Bellatrix Dobby style, where the sword goes flying and she poofs and the sword goes with her. Them at the wedding turns into a picture in a storybook that is being read by this little boy. He's on a bus, and when he gets where he's going, going. He calls a cab and pays for it with a credit card. He's like, maybe 10, very small. Then we cut to this absolute goddess stepping off an elevator. Look at her, a queen. She's arriving at a fancy dinner spot. She meets a guy at a table. He's like, oh, are you Emma? Wow, you're even more beautiful than your pictures. Like, no way. They sit down, they're on a first date together. He asks her to tell him a little bit about herself. She says that it's her birthday and she's kind of a loner and she doesn't have any family, so she's spending it with him instead. He says she's the sexiest, friendless orphan he's ever seen. Ew. She says, okay, now you go. Wait, no, let me guess. And then she reads him for absolute filth and says he stole money and skipped town before he could go to jail, leaving his wife and family behind. Yeah, so she's a bail bonds person and he takes off. He like flips the table on her and runs away. She goes after him, but she already put a boot on his car, so he can't go anywhere. He tries to be like, wait, I can pay you. How much money do you want? And she's like, dude, you don't have any money, and if you did, you should send it to your wife so she can take care of your family for you. He goes, what the hell do you know about family? And she just grabs him and knocks him out on the steering wheel and goes, nothing. Then we cut to Emma coming inside what we can assume is her apartment. She takes out a cupcake and a little birthday candle, lights it, and says another banner year before blowing it out and making a wish. The second the candle goes out, there's a knock at the door. It's the little boy from the bus. He's like, hi, are you Emma Swan? She goes, yeah, who are you? He says, my name's Henry. I'm your son. He just goes right into her house and she's like, hold on, come back here. I don't have a son. Who are you? And he's like, oh, I'm sorry. Did you not give up a child for adoption 10 years ago? Yeah, that's me. Surprise. Happy birthday. So Emma locks herself in the bathroom for a few minutes and takes a few deep breaths. When she comes back out, she's like, what are you doing here? And Henry's like, oh, I came to get you. We should probably get going soon. I need you to take me home. She's like, yeah, I'm not doing that. I'm gonna call the cops. You have to leave. He's like, if you call the cops, I'll tell them you kidnapped me. And she's like, they'll believe you because I'm your birth mom. And he's like, yeah. But then she leans into him and she's like, you know, I have this thing that I can do. It's basically like a superpower. I can always tell when people are lying, and you're bluffing. You're not gonna do that if I call the cops on you. You're just gonna let them take you home. So I'm gonna do it. And he's like, no, please, I really need you to take me home. Just drive me home. It's not that far. Emma lives in Boston and Henry lives in Storybrooke, Maine. We go back to Snow White and Prince Charming in their castle. She's pregnant now and she's really worried about the evil queen and what she said she was gonna do to them. Charming is very much just like, you know, everything's gonna be fine. I'm gonna protect you. We're all gonna be okay. You don't need to worry. But Snow is kind of like, you can't guarantee that. You can't promise me that nothing's gonna happen. But he can. Charming is immediately like, no, absolutely not. We're not even entertaining that idea. And she's like, I have to go see him. I have to see him. He will know what to do. And Charming's like, no. And she's like, you can't promise me things. You can't see the future, but he can. I need to go see him. And Charming agrees as long as he can go with her. Emma and Henry are now in the car. She's driving him home. He's got that big storybook in his lap and he's like flipping through it. She asks him what it is and he's like, oh, I don't think you're ready for that yet. And she's like, I'm not ready for stories? And he's like, they're not stories. They're real. Everything in this book happened. She's of course like, yeah, okay, kid. And he goes, use your superpower. Am I lying? She looks over at him and she's like, okay, well, just because you believe something is true doesn't mean it's actually true. Then he tells her that she's actually also in the storybook and she's gonna fix everybody's problems. Snow White and Prince Charming go to see him, which is this guy, Rumpelstiltskin. Look at that. Look at that character design. This man is flawless, okay? I could go on and on and on and on about Robert Carlyle, but oh my God, he's one of my favorite characters. I absolutely love him. So Rumpelstiltskin has There's so much about his character that I love, but one of my favorite things is the way that Robert does his like vocalizations and the way he talks. He jumps in pitch a lot. He uses like all these different accents. He's just very strange, but it works in like the best way. I have never been watching the show and listened to Rumpelstiltskin and gone, ugh, that was too much. Like that was too much of a choice. It just always fits. And it always makes sense, even though the people around him like speak, you know, relatively normally. There's not like a lot going on with their speech patterns or anything. He just makes it so realistic and believable. It's the wildest thing. I love it so much. So if he is worth watching the show for, I'm not even gonna lie to you. They've come kind of in disguise with like big cloaks on over their clothes and they're like hiding their faces from him, but he knows who they are right away. And he's like, come over here and talk to me. Be adults about this. Let's discuss what you need to know. He already knows what they want. And he's like, I can ease your minds about the queen's plans, but it'll come at a price. Charming immediately is like, we're not giving you anything. And Snow is like, what do you want? He says he wants the name of their unborn child. Charming, once again, is like, yeah, we're not doing that. But Snow White is like, absolutely, anything you want. Tell me what I want to know. He explains that the queen is planning a curse and it's going to trap them somewhere horrible where all their happy endings will be taken away from them. So basically what she promised to do at the wedding, she's gonna do it. It's coming. There's a curse. Snow is like, well, what can we do? We have to be able to stop her. And Rumple is like, yeah, you guys can't do anything. None of us can do anything. The only person who can stop the queen is y'all's baby. Of course, Snow and Charming are like, what are you talking about? And Rumple is like, yeah, the baby is gonna go and grow up to be 28, and on their 28th birthday, they're gonna return to you guys, and they're gonna be the ones that fix everything. Charming goes to leave. He's like, we're out of here. This guy's crazy. But Rumple freaks out and starts like banging on the cage bars and like frothing at the mouth because he's locked in a prison cell right now. And so he's freaking out. He's like, I want to know her name. You promised me her name. What's her name? And Charming is like, okay, so you really are delusional. We're having a boy. Of course we're having a boy. But Rumple goes, you know the truth, to Snow White, and Snow White is like, her name is Emma. We cut back to Emma and Henry driving into Storybrooke. Here's the town sign. Look at that. It's cute. When they get parked, she's like, where are we going? Where do you live? And he's like, oh, yeah, I'm not telling you that. And she's like, dude, it's been a really long night. It's almost, she looks up at the clock tower and it's stuck on 8:15, which is incorrect. He says, oh, the clock tower's been stuck like that my entire life. It's never moved. The evil queen brought everybody here and trapped them in time. Emma's like, okay, so why don't they leave? And Henry says if they try to go once they're here, bad things happen to them. This guy, Archie, shows up with his beautiful little puppy that's a Dalmatian. He's like, Henry, what are you doing out so late? What's going on? Emma is like, oh, I don't want any trouble. I'm just the person giving him a ride home. And then Henry is like, she's not just any person. She's my mom. Archie is like, oh, okay. Well, he lives at the mayor's house, so he's the mayor's son. He reminds Henry that he missed their therapy session for the afternoon, and Henry's like, oh, yeah, I had to go on a field trip, which is a lie. So Archie leans down to him and is like, remember that giving into one's dark side never accomplishes anything. And then he heads out, and Emma's like, that guy's weird. So now Emma thinks that he believes in fairy tales and he's in therapy intentionally. So she's a little concerned about Henry, but Henry's like, I don't need Archie's help, okay? My mom insists that I go. And he's like, Archie needs our help, okay? Archie is Jiminy Cricket. He just doesn't remember. Like, just put yourself in your shoes. If you were Emma Swan, you too would be like, this little boy has lost his mind. Back in the Enchanted Forest, Charming is calling for battle because he's pretty sure they can just defeat the evil queen before she can launch her curse. Jiminy is there, and he's this tiny little cricket right here that doesn't believe in war. Snow is like basically passed out in her chair, just like completely giving up. Okay, the pregnancy hormones are really hitting her hard, and she has like nothing left to give, even though normally she's the one that's grabbing the sword and going to battle first. But Charming is like, honey, if you believe Rumpelstiltskin about the curse, then you have to believe him about our child too. She's gonna be the savior. We're all gonna be fine. Then the blue fairy comes in and she's got guards with her and they're carrying this like big giant tree. She says that it's a special tree and if they can make it into a vessel, it can ward off any curse. Geppetto is kind of in that circle of Snow White and Charming's like main people, and he says that he can do it with his son Pinocchio, who is a real boy. Geppetto is there, like Geppetto and Pinocchio, and he agrees to do it. He says that they can do it together and he'll be able to make it work. The blue fairy then drops the bomb that the tree can only hold one person. Emma gets Henry to the mayor's house, but he doesn't want to go inside. He says that his mom is evil, she's not nice to him, he hates living with her, and she doesn't love him. She only pretends to. Emma is like, Henry, that can't be true. She's your mom. The door to the house opens and out runs this lady, the evil freaking queen, except now she looks like this. And she hugs Henry and she's crying and she's like, oh my God, I've been so worried about you. And she's like clearly freaking out. She asks what he's been doing all day and he's like, I found my real mom. And then he runs away from her into the house. So she stands up to face Emma and she's like, you're his birth mom? And Emma is just like, hi. So then the evil queen puts on a big smile and she's like, how would you like to come inside for a glass of the best apple cider you've ever tasted? Apple cider. Oh no. But Emma is like, do you have anything stronger than that? We learn that in our world, the evil queen is obviously not going by that title. Her name is Regina Mills, so we can call her Regina or the mayor, whatever you guys like. So inside the house, Regina is like, how did you find him? I was told his birth mother didn't want any contact. And Emma is like, yeah, that's true. That's what I said. I didn't find him. He showed up at my house. We learn that Henry's father is gone, and Emma's like, yeah, he's not in the picture. You don't even sort of have to worry about that. He doesn't even know about Henry. And then Regina is like, well, do I need to worry about you, Miss Swan? And Emma is like, no, you don't. This man pops up. We saw him in the background when Regina came running out of the house. He's the sheriff. His name is Graham. He tucked Henry in and checked on him, and now he's leaving. The ladies talk a little bit more. Regina pushes Emma for a little bit of information on herself, but Emma keeps it really vague and doesn't really go into heavy detail about anything. Regina says that yes, she pushes Henry hard, but it's just because she wants the best for him and she wants him to have his best shot in life. And there's nothing evil about that, right? On the table between them is a big bunch of red apples. I'm stressed. Emma is like, oh, the evil queen thing? Don't worry. He probably just says that because of the whole fairy tale situation. Regina is like, fairy tale what now? And Emma's like, well, you know that book of stories that he has? He thinks everybody's from it. He thinks the whole town is like a fairy tale character. The evil queen is like, I have no idea what you're talking about. I've never heard him mention that before. Emma is like, oh, it's really none of my business. I'm gonna go. Okay, he's not my kid. It's not my business. I'm out. As she walks to the car, we see Henry in the window watching her and he like slams the curtains closed. On her way out of town, Emma sees the storybook next to her in the passenger seat, so Henry left it there on purpose, and she's like, oh, this little kid. And then when she turns her eyes back to the road, there is a wolf, and it scares the crap out of her, and she crashes into the town sign. We then see Geppetto and Pinocchio building the beautiful wardrobe. It's this gorgeous, like, enchanted looking, it's perfect. Look at this. That's amazing. Snow is freaking out because, of course, she's gonna be the one to go through the wardrobe with Emma still in her tummy. She doesn't want to do that. She's so worried about being separated from Charming. But he's like, honey, it's 28 years. What's that really when we have eternal love? Like, it will be okay. He has faith that she and Emma will save them and everything will be okay. While they're hugging, she pulls back in a panic and realizes the baby is coming right this minute. At the same time, in another part of the castle, the dwarves are on watch duty up in the towers, and they freaking see purple, scary mist sweeping over the land, and they realize the curse is coming right that second. Back in the present, Emma wakes up in a jail cell. That same angry dwarf who was like, the curse is coming, is sitting in the cell beside her, and he's like, what are you looking at, lady? Don't look at me. This is him. His name is Leroy. Geppetto is also there. He is a janitor. And he's like, oh, what's up? So you're Henry's mom. That's crazy. Then he says, I always wanted children, but me and my wife couldn't have them. I'd like to remind you that in the Enchanted Forest, Pinocchio was a real boy, so Geppetto had a son. The sheriff, Graham, comes in and is like, Leroy, I'm gonna let you out. This time you have to promise to be nice. And Leroy's like, I'm not gonna promise anything. And he leaves. Then Graham turns to Emma and is like, so, I guess those drinks you had at the mayor's were a little stronger than you thought, right? And Emma's like, dude, I wasn't drunk. There was a wolf in the road. And Graham is like, a wolf? Really? Okay. Regina comes running in and she's like, Graham, Henry's missing again. Where did he go? And then she sees Emma and is like, what's going on? Why are you here? Emma is like, I've been in here all night, so I clearly don't have Henry. Thank you very much. Where do you think I'm hiding him? In my pockets? So because of her background, being a bail bonds person, Emma's really good at finding people. So she starts asking the queen like, okay, well, does he have any friends? Does he have any other family? And Regina is like, yeah, no, Henry's kind of a loner. Okay, we're working on it. Graham is very into how good Emma is at her job, so he brings her out of the cell and they start tag teaming how to find Henry. She goes through Henry's computer and figures out that Henry used a credit card under somebody named Mary Margaret to find Emma and then get to Boston and everything. Mary Margaret is this woman. That's right, Snow White. In this world, she's Henry's teacher. So we cut to her teaching a lesson about birds. They're making bird houses. And she's basically like holding a little songbird in her hand. And she's like, birds are very loyal creatures. They'll always come back to you if you take care of them. Don't forget, we're building these houses for the birds, not for ourselves. Da, da, da. And she lets the bird go out the window and it like flies to its house that she painted for it. Yeah, she's literally a Disney princess in real life. Bell rings, the kids leave, and Regina and Emma come in, and Mary Margaret is like, what's going on? So Mary Margaret did not give Henry her credit card, which means he took it from her purse while he was at school, which is not good. But Mary Margaret is like, oh, it's okay. He's such a clever boy. I never should have given him that book. Of course, Regina is pissed. So they're standing kind of like Mary Margaret over here, and then Regina and Emma are over here. Regina's more forward and Emma's here. Mary Margaret looks at Emma, okay? Once she realizes that Emma is Henry's birth mom, she just starts talking to Emma instead of looking at Regina, even though Regina is the one being like, what do you mean you gave him a book? A book of what? What happened? Mary Margaret explains that it's just a book of fairy tales. Henry is so creative and so smart, but he's really lonely, and she thought the stories would be comforting to him. The queen is pissed, and she storms from the room and knocks over a stack of books like a damn child. Emma, of course, stays and helps Mary Margaret pick everything up because she is an adult. She asks Mary Margaret why a book of stories would be that important to Henry, like why is he fixated on them so much? Mary Margaret explains that it's because Henry's been searching for connection. You know, he asks the same question that any adoptive child asks, which is, why would somebody give me away? Of course, right away, she's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean that. I didn't mean that to be mean to you. But Emma's like, yeah, it's fine. I'm used to it. It's fine. Mary Margaret finishes everything by being like, I gave him the book so that he could have hope. Hope of a happy ending is so important for him right now. Then she tells Emma to look for Henry at his castle. We cut to Snow in the middle of giving birth. They are trying to keep the baby inside of her, which is a thing you can't do. You can't just say the baby can't come out. The baby is coming out. At the same time this is happening in Snow's castle, the queen is in the forest in a carriage racing through the tree line, and as she's coming, we see the fog of smoke from the curse right at her heels as she's moving forward towards Snow's castle. Geppetto finishes the wardrobe, but by the time he gets it done, they can't move Snow from her room to the room where the wardrobe is. So she has the baby and Emma is born and she's safe, and the second Snow is holding her, they realize that the wardrobe can only take one. The evil queen arrives at the castle and we hear the sound of like crashing and the guards breaking in, and Charming is holding Snow and Emma and he's like, at least we're together. But Snow insists that he takes the baby to the wardrobe. He's immediately like, no, are you crazy? And she's like, we have to give Emma her best chance. We have to. So they kiss each other and she says goodbye to Emma and he leaves with the baby. He's got Emma in one arm and a sword in the other and he leaves the room. The second he's gone, Snow just starts sobbing because she's probably never gonna see either of them again. They're under attack and he's taking the baby to put her in the wardrobe. So Snow just like breaks down and we see it like in the reflection of a mirror. Oh, it is just heartbreaking. This cast can cry, y'all. I will tell you that right now. This whole damn cast can cry so well. Charming just cuts through the guards in the castle like the badass that he is, okay? He is holding the baby in one arm and just mowing through people with the other. He gets a little banged up, but he's fine. He makes it to the wardrobe room. He gets Emma inside. He gives her a kiss. He says, find us, and then he shuts her in. Then more guards show up, and one of them manages to stab him pretty badly in the side. He falls over and has the quietest passing out I've ever seen in my life, but that same guard like yanks the wardrobe door open and Emma is gone. So Charming falls unconscious, but it's after he knows that Emma got away and he is happy and satisfied with himself. Emma finds Henry at this like adorable little playhouse castle. It is so cute. It's down on the waterline. The parts of the show that are set in Storybrooke were filmed in Vancouver and it is just beautiful. So the clock tower still hasn't moved and Henry's really upset because he thought for sure that when he brought Emma to stay, that would fix everything. Emma is like, dude, cut the crap. These are just stories. Like, I know you don't really believe in all this. And Henry is so funny. He's like, you don't have to be so hostile with me. I know you like me. I just make you feel guilty, and that's okay. You don't have to feel bad about it. He knows why she gave him away, and it's because she wanted to give him his best chance. She's like, how did you know that? He says it's the reason why Snow White gave you away. She is like, okay, Henry, enough. I'm not a princess or a savior or anything like that. I'm a real person and I need you to let me take you home because I need to go back to my life. But he begs her to stay for just a week because his life with his mom is so bad, he just wants to spend some time with Emma instead of being with Regina all the time. She kind of goes off on him a little bit because she's like, dude, at least you had a mom that loved you and you're the mayor's kid. Like, you grew up with money, you grew up in a beautiful house. I was dropped on the side of a freeway and I ended up in foster care. I had a family until I was 3 and then they gave me back and I went back into foster care. Like, I have never had a family that wanted me. You need to cool it and go back to your mom. But Henry is like, no, they didn't drop you on the side of a freeway. That's just where you popped out. They put you in a wardrobe and sent you here so that you would be safe from the curse. And Emma's like, okay, Henry, sure. And then she takes him away to take him back to Regina. So Charming, because he got stabbed and passed out, obviously never went back to Snow's room. So she waddles through the house after having given birth and finds him in the wardrobe room. She's of course devastated. She gets to him and starts kissing him, but it's not working. He's not waking up. The queen shows up and like sweeps into the room and is like, oh, don't worry, dear. In a few minutes, you won't remember a thing. You won't even remember that you loved him. Snow is like, why are you doing this? What is going on? The queen is like, because it's time for me to get my happy ending. It's time for me to win. Then the evil queen finds out that Emma is gone, which is not good because she wanted all 3 of them to suffer together. So Snow realizes in that moment too that Emma got through the wardrobe. So they're gonna be fine. And she just starts to kind of laugh and smile and she's like, you're gonna lose. Our daughter's gonna save us and you're gonna lose. Good is always going to win. The queen is like, we'll see about that. And then the smoke and the curse breaks into the room and she starts to laugh as it like sweeps around them and overtakes them. Snow is like, where are we going? And the queen is like, somewhere truly horrible. A place where the only happy ending will be mine. So Emma brings Henry home again. So Regina is like, thank you so much. Henry seems to really like you, doesn't he? And Emma is like, you know what's crazy? Yesterday was my birthday and I made a wish that I hoped I wouldn't have to spend another birthday alone. And then Henry showed up. Like, it was crazy. But then the evil queen turns evil. And she's like, don't go mistaking this for anything other than what it is. You helped bring Henry back. Thank you. you don't have a place in his life. Emma is like, oh, I wasn't saying, and the evil queen is like, you don't get to speak. You don't get to do anything. And then she just goes off and she's like, I am his mother. I raised him. I changed his diapers. I fed him. I kept him clothed. Where have you been, Miss Swan? What have you been doing? God, and then she hits her with, do you know what a closed adoption is? It's what you asked for. She tells her to leave town, and if she doesn't, she will destroy her. Look, have you guys heard that audio going around TikTok that's like, you are a normal, everyday civilian. Act like it. That's how I feel about Regina in moments like this, because I'm like, if you don't want people to know you're the evil queen, you really need to cool it. You can't just look another human in the eye and say you'll destroy them. There's consequences to that language here, lady. As she's going back inside the house, Emma is like, do you love him? And Regina turns around and she's like, what? And Emma's like, Henry, do you love him? And Regina is like, of course I do. He's my son. And then she goes inside. But remember that Emma can tell when people are lying. In his room, Henry is very upset. Regina doesn't say anything to him. She just takes his storybook away. We see that the title of the book is Once Upon a Time. She kind of holds it to her chest and looks into a very suspicious looking mirror on the wall. Mary Margaret also volunteers at the hospital because she is perfection in human form. And we see her visiting a patient in a coma, and that patient is Prince Charming. Emma, in fact, does not leave town. She checks into Granny's inn. So this is Granny and Red Riding Hood. They're so excited because they never get guests, so they give her like a deal on a room, and Granny's just like, oh my god, I can't believe you're here. This is amazing. This is the best news ever. While Emma's like giving her name and checking in, from behind her we hear, Emma! What a lovely name. It's freaking Rumpelstiltskin! Here, he's human looking, as you can tell, and not a scary dragon man anymore. Granny immediately becomes very meek and scared. She takes like a stack of money out of the register and is like, here you go, it's all here. He takes it from her and he's like, I'm sure it is, dear. He tells Emma to have a lovely stay and then he leaves. Emma is like, who was that? Red Riding Hood's like, that's Mr. Gold. He owns this place. Emma's like, oh, the inn? And Granny's like, the town. Emma's kind of like, okay, yeah, all right. I'm gonna stay for about a week. Is that okay? Granny's like, of course, absolutely. Welcome to Storybrooke. She hands her her key. Then we go back to Henry watching from his window as the clock tower moves. Oh my god. Do you guys see why I thought it was probably best if we just open with the pilot? I know I just threw so much information at you, so just let that marinate. We'll be back next Monday. We'll talk about a few more episodes. I hope you guys are excited and enjoying the series so far. I love this show. It's so magical and fun. The costumes are amazing. Oh, there's just so many elements of it that I could gush about. If you're interested, don't forget there'll be a Vampire Diaries video going up on Friday, so I will see you guys then. Otherwise, I'll see you on Monday. Have a good one. Bye!